But first, Cindy, so I mentioned that you started TitleSmart literally months before.
The first time ever.
And so the first year had to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
How did you have the fortitude to carry on through that housing bubble?
Well, there was a few moments where I thought, geez, I don't know if this is going to work. And a lot of prayer, and a lot of just really soul searching to, find different ways to go out and get a new customer. And a lot of mind over matter. There were times where I sat with my sister and my best friend who worked there at the time, just the three of us. And I'm like, okay, so we need to make a list of what our goals are, and we need to figure out what we can do today to possibly make a new connection. Maybe not a new customer at that point, but just to really will that into being. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but it works. I remember like a pivotal point with my business in that first year is I went out to Rudy's Red Eye Grill in Waverly. I put my business cards in my pocket, which I have always in my pocket. And I walked in there and I'm like, oh, you meet someone tonight. And my husband's like, whatever. So we went in, we started eating, and I was walking out and I ran into this guy. And I talk about him in my book. His name is Mike. And right away he's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in like 5 years, and I was wondering if you were still doing closings. And he's like, we're doing these short sales now because the economy is really bad and things are really slow and we got to get together. So I'm like, yep, we're experts at that. So I'm like, yeah. So it was kind of a new thing that was going on with the industry with all the homes going into foreclosure with the bubble. And so I told my sister, I went back and I'm like, we got to become experts in this like right now. And as a title company, you do have weird transactions all the time that come up. You just don't do them that often. Well, we got down and dirty and I started working with him and with one of his other real estate agents, and they literally changed the face of our business. And in the worst time ever. Yes, it was still hard. Yes, we had no money, but we made it.
Yeah. So it's funny because we talk a lot about affirmations, right? And you said to Mike, we're experts in that. And I heard that as an affirmation. And then you went, and now I'm going to go make sure that that's true. Did you have other affirmations, or you mentioned a little woo-woo? We love a little woo-woo here. Other spirituality types of things, a miracle morning, something that you do to help you stay in that positive state, even when business isn't always free of bumps. So how do you stay in that positive space all the time?
Well, at the time, we were really into reading The Secret, which I still love. I think it's a great book. It's come so far since then. But I still practice that every day. You can't just read a great book and think, oh, okay, now I'll just be an entrepreneur. Right. You have to feed that every day. So there's sometimes, I'm sure all of you wake up on a Monday and you're like, oh crap, I don't want to go to work. That's when I'll go and I'll put on an audiobook or a podcast, and I pump myself back up, and then I come downstairs and I like slide across the floor to my husband, and he's like, what happened to you? And I'm like, listen to my book. And then I'll be it's like getting your mind right.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
No. On that note, do you have a favorite book or a book that you think was a great foundational book for you as you were launching and getting to that next level?
Well, there's been a lot of different books that I really liked. I mean, I love Jen Sincero with her badass books. I don't know if anyone here knows.
Oh, yes.
And I have that little button on my desk, that you push, and that she tells you some things. And I really enjoyed Grant Cardone. He's helped me in a lot of ways. There was even a time last year where I was having an issue with one of my staff members, and he's a pretty important person that worked pretty closely with me, and I had listened to that chapter probably 5 times, and I just happened to be listening to it again, because I'll just open it up and just pick one, and then kind of listen to it. And I went in and I actually picked up the phone a half an hour later and said, you don't need to come in. And it was the best decision I ever made, and it just gave me the courage to do it. But I switch around a lot.
Excellent. And any specific Grant Cardone book?
Well, he has his 10X philosophy, where basically everything you do it's going to take you 10 times the effort than what you anticipated.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, and that goes with everything. So
Yeah.
if you think you need $5,000 a month to support your business, you're really going to need it 10 times more than that. Or if you think you're going to bring in this many clients by making this many contacts, you need to estimate 10 times more of phone calls and contacts you need to make, because of the effort it's going to take is going to be more. And that's why most businesses fail, because people underestimate the amount of effort that's required.
Yeah.
But then he has another one too, where he's sitting on an airplane, and I love that one too. But it's kind of got almost a similar title to my book, so it's Be Obsessed or Be Average, BOBA.
Yeah.
And that was the one I read where I fired that lady. I don't like to fire people, but it was a pivotal point for my business, and I did it, and I'm glad. So everybody, coaches always need a coach, like you said.
That's right. That's right. So one of the hardest things to do as a business owner is to fire somebody. And I want to go the other route and find out, you started with your sister and your best friend. What was that experience like, hiring your first employee after them? And how did you go about it? Did you include your sister and your best friend in that entire experience? What was your process for that? How did you decide who it was? So I think there's a lot of people in the room that are, well, I know I need help, I just am not sure how to actually take that next step and hire someone.
Well, back then, I was already a vice president of another title company before. That's already had a lot of experience hiring people. But still to this day, I really do like recruiting people through a word of mouth. I'll post a job on social media, and I'll really spend time vetting somebody. We do like personality testing, and try to make sure that person is the right fit for the job. And then, if you've got somebody from another company, steal somebody.
Well, it's true what they say, that the most employable people aren't looking for a job, they already have one. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to recruit people away from another place if you can offer them a better opportunity, yeah?
Right, or if you just know somebody who maybe is a stay-at-home mom but has a college degree in marketing, maybe they want to ease back into the workforce. And then that gives them an opportunity to do that while your limited capital can then pay them, and then you can grow that way. I've never been a person who likes to go out and borrow all this money.
Yeah.
The initial money I opened my company was from my mom. It's $30,000. I still have a copy of that check, and I paid her back as quickly as we could. And I like to lead with revenue. I don't like to owe people, and when I do have to borrow money for a short period of time, I'm just frantic about paying it back. My accountant always tells me, wealthy people pay off debt aggressively. And so anytime I am thinking of a financial transaction, that runs through my mind.
Yeah, that's really great advice. That's right downable right there.
That's okay, Mariana.
So you talked about this pivotal moment with Mike. What other pivotal big leap moments have you experienced in your years? So now we're looking at 12, 13 years since you opened TitleSmart. I like to talk about that hockey stick moment where you're working, and then something clicks, and all of a sudden you start that kind of going upwards in a momentum-ish kind of way. What is a moment like that for you?
Well, I've had a lot of those moments over the last, for sure, 10 years. Because that first year, those first 3 years were kind of like, all right, we're growing a little bit, and then in 2009, it just took off. And part of that was recruiting the right people that actually could bring some clients to the table, and then providing them with the right service so that they could service those clients with the same idea that I had. But also taking that risk. When I first recruited a top producing title closer from another company, that required me to open a brand new office in Edina, which meant I had to go out and look at space and lease a space and sign a 5-year lease. And so there was a lot of like, and now today I have 8 leases, some of them up to 10 years. And I look around and I'm like, oh my gosh, you would think I would not be able to sleep at night. But you just bite off little baby steps.
Yeah.
One little spot, and then maybe you add one more. and then you just
And
pray.
it kind of is that new normal, and then you get ready for the next new normal.
Yeah, and it seems like once it rains, it pours. Because I just moved one of my offices. It was one of my, probably the second one that I opened, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I gotta move this other one now. And so you can become desensitized to it over time, but you do have to just start. I always liken it to when you see somebody who has a toddler and they're running around crazy. And it's maybe a new mom that doesn't have a baby, and they think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And it's like, well, you don't start out that way. You know what I mean?
They don't come so fast right away.
Yeah, and then over time they become that. You have time to get adjusted to it, and I take that same philosophy with my business, just moving towards it, and building little bits and pieces of infrastructure along the way.
Perfect. You talking about infrastructure. I know you're a very detail-oriented person, and you're also a people person. So you kind of have this amazing blend of both of those things. Often when I talk to entrepreneurs who have made it onto lists like the Inc. 5000, there's one thing that came first, either right people or right processes. You talked about bringing on the right people. For you and TitleSmart, was it right people first or right processes first? Or how did you figure out how to combine those two things?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because sometimes you don't know if you have the right people. You think you do, and then a month later you're like, oh no. And it's so important. I just had last year where I had these few people in my company that were causing so many problems, and it's in my corporate office where I have like 50-some people working. And I just thought about it when I came back from vacation last week. I'm like, this was the best vacation return that I've ever had. And it's because those two people don't work there anymore, because they would always run around and cause little gossip and little problems. And I'm thinking, what a difference. And then in retrospect, I look back, 8 months has been wonderful. But systems are always improving and changing. I'm constantly like, I may see you do something a certain way, and I'm like, we should take that and kind of tweak it and customize it and add it into our thing and just make it our own. And so that's always moving and changing. You might be on this software, then you decide a couple years later you're going to make the move to this one, and then your systems require you to do this now, like with your accounting processes. So I think that's just, they're always running concurrent.
Yeah. One of the things I really respect about you is your willingness to roll up your sleeves, even at the level of success that you have now. And how many total employees are with
100.
100. Okay, 100
102.
folks.
I just asked the other day,
and still, at this point, you're willing to roll up your sleeves, and you know every single role that TitleSmart has, and you're able to fill those roles at the drop of a hat, which I think is amazing. How do you utilize people in your company to help you with that process development? Is that a monthly meeting? Is it an open door policy? Is it a comment box at the front? How do you engage your team to create that culture where they can bring things forward?
Well, for the size company that I have, it's still possible for me to oversee everything, and so I do. I mean, Michelle can attest to that. Everybody reports to me, and so if somebody has an issue with something, they come to me about it. Especially conflict resolution, because if I allow somebody else to handle conflict resolution, all these people will go in there and talk to them, and they'll make a big deal about it. And there's a big drama, and they'll come in and I'll be like, you know what, this is really not a big deal. You don't have cancer. Go back to your desk. And so, but that's a huge thing. I watch money, I mentor the staff, and people are like, how do you sleep? I'm like, I do. It's not that hard to do it. You just have to budget your time correctly and pay attention to things. And I recently had a customer who I was just doing a little side coaching with, and he's like, well, I don't know how much money is in my bank account, and I don't know what's going on with our books. And I go, you know what? You are not big enough to not know. I look every week. I know exactly how much money is in that bank account, and where I'm saving it, and where I'm moving it, and what I'm budgeting for the winter months when it's slower for us. And you have to have your finger on the pulse of every aspect of your business.
Awesome.
Unless you're Steve Jobs. You just do it. Yeah.
So is that your next level, Steve Jobs?
I don't know. Everybody's like, how do you do it? I'm like, I just do it because I have help. I have great staff that help me, and I always tell them that. Your job is to help me run the business. It's not to run the business for me. We work together.
That's
and
right.
if I have to do your job, then I probably don't need you.
Oh, right.
So
Right.
support me. Don't fight against me.
Yeah. And ladies, she also returns emails within like 5 minutes. She's amazing.
Try. I mean, I'm not returning any right now.
So last question before we open it up for a little bit of Q&A. Talk to us a little bit about culture. You are the culture when you start your own business. And as the business grows, you have people, both good and not so good, that affect your culture. How have you intentionally created your culture, and how do you continue to make sure that it breathes through all 8 of your locations?
Well, like I said, because people report to me directly, they have contact with me directly, and so that message is easily sent out. I do this thing called bombs. So if something really important needs to go out to my staff, instead of doing a big staff meeting or driving around to all the offices, I have this little thing that has my little logo on it, and I just make this cute little video, and I talk to them like they're sitting right here, and then I send it out. And I'll just give it a little subtitle. So that really helps, especially if it's something that just needs a Cindy answer, which is like, don't wear these shirts on Fridays anymore. Translation, don't wear these shirts. Just happened. It's like football jersey thing, and I'm like, football season's over. But, there's a lot of people going, whoa, and I'm like, no, there's no well. We don't wear tennis shoes. That means all forms of tennis shoes. So sometimes I have to put that in a little bomb video. Otherwise, I walk the walk. Yes. And I just talked about it with someone the other day. We have this huge parking lot, and I pull in, and I know these spaces are forbidden. They're for our customers. So I go over to the spot, and if those are not open, I go way back to the nosebleed. And people see me walking in, they're like, why'd you park way back here? And I'm like, because I asked you to park here, so I need to park here, because you need to be able to follow the leader. So it's the same reason where I don't allow jeans in my office because of the customers that we have, the foot traffic. So I'm like, I think you look really great in your jeans, in your blazer, but you can't wear them because of the foot traffic that we have on our customer expectation. So what would happen if I wore them?
Right.
Monkey see, monkey do.
That's right. And you maintain that level of respect because you are truly walking the walk.
Yeah, and if there's something needs to be done and I don't have anyone who can do it, there's pretty much not any job in our company that I couldn't just be like, oh crap. All right, sleeves rolled up. It might take me a few minutes to remember what I'm doing, but I can put figures in, I can balance a settlement statement, I can go in and do the closing.
Yeah.
And I'm not as good at it as Michelle anymore, but if I have to, I will.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Michelle, I'm curious, from your standpoint.
I'm gonna get her in trouble.
I've known Cindy for just a few months, and the level of respect I have for her is out of the ballpark. You get to work in her space virtually and really every single day. What is the vibe from all of the employees about Cindy and the level of respect you guys have for her?
Be nice.
See, I may make my own paychecks, so I have to be nice to everybody else. The level of respect that I have for Cindy personally is extraordinary. My life has changed in 5 years. I've been able to manage my own office that she trusted me with, and I'm down in the sticks. I'm in Faribault. So I don't get to experience the vibe of a busy office every day, so I have to do that in my own space, and I'm able to do that because of the example she leads. Is she helps me to keep that rolling, even though I have a lot of that on my own. Inspirational person follows an inspirational person, so I follow her lead. There's two, ironically, very important women in my life that have brought me much success, and ironically, they're both in this room today. So.
That's awesome. Very cool.
I will. Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay. I just sent a picture of you to my closers.
Oh, who are
Okay.
they? Are they like, I know
And
her?
this is what one of them said. Funny, Cindy is always all over the place, just like you. It was just a matter of time until you ran into her. Ha ha ha. She's great.
She's
Aw,
great.
that was so nice.
That's the Ambers.
Oh,
I just switched to you guys.
to Amber and
recently.
Amber,
Mhm.
and they are incredible.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Is
Yeah.
there anybody who has a burning question for Cindy?
I have a question.
Or a smoldering question? Smoldering, it can be a smoldering
Mild,
question.
I would say. When you first realized your business was scaling, how did your financial practices and your financial organization change?
Well, so in the beginning, I was like, all right, I just got to see if I got enough money to pay my bills. And I mean, there was a time when I had to cut our salaries, the three of us. And then I really figured out very quickly how to save.
Sure.
And that, I think, has been, just the heart of my business. My husband even laughs about it, because even last spring, we had a really slow start to the spring market. And so my husband's like, so are you going through all your savings? And I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden May hit, and we did really 12 months of business in 8 months. And I set this lofty $15 million in sales goal, and we smashed it. And I didn't even know we were going to smash it until probably December 28th. And then we were really just stoked about going over. But yeah, I mean, when I started late, then I kind of, used up all my reserves, and then he's like, at the end of the year, he's like, how much did you save? And then I told him, and he's like, what are you doing, printing money back there? And I'm like, well, I know that I don't want to be laying people off in the winter when I need to get everybody trained, and I need people to be able to take vacations, because that's when people do it. And I need to be ready for when the spring market hits. And a lot of title companies have a hard time surviving that, because the owners, or I hate to even say this, the shareholders will just take a lot of the profits out of the company at the end of the year, and then they start cutting back on staff in January, February, March. Then spring hits, and you start training people all over again, you get a lag. And in the title industry, you cannot afford that lag. And I'm probably one of the only companies that hires 1 to 6 people in the first quarter.
Excellent. Yes. So, ladies, we have Cindy's got actually several books. She's got a couple of kids' books.
And I don't have those here, I don't
Oh,
think.
well,
Oh, no, there's a couple.
There's a couple. There's a
Yeah,
couple.
yeah.
And then she's also got this amazing book called Obsessed to Success, which is a really easy read, but so many gems of wisdom in there. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Vanna.
And Jess will be over there to help you with that. And then I also have the audiobook on Amazon. If you have Audible listeners, it's an hour and 55 minutes. So it's a quick book that you can listen to, even just the little book. It's very little words on each page. I want it to be kind of like a Tuesdays with Maury or Move My Cheese, so you can just really read it quick and be done. Because, it's hard with business books. You want to read, and then you get sidetracked with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is she amazing?
Yes.